Hello again and welcome back. This is video 18, The Advantages of the Master. So ever since I was an 8th grader playing in my first grass doubles volleyball tournament, I played against some old, fat, and slow people. And me, a pretty athletic kid, playing with an even older and more athletic guy, I thought we would kill him for sure. I was playing with a freshman in high school, and I was an 8th grader, and we were so athletic and way faster than everybody else that was out there, and we lost every single game, and it drove me nuts because I could not figure out why these fat, old, slow people were not just beating us, but I mean just beating the heck out of us, handily beating us. So ever since then, honestly, I've been looking for the answer to this question. Even as I became the older and more experienced person, I've not been fat and slow just yet, but I'm sure it's coming. I've been looking for why. Why is it that experience beats youth all the time until youth has enough experience to then make up for some of the difference in maybe the other people are more experienced still, but this youth has all this athleticism, and people that are on the downward side of their athleticism that when they start to compete. So what is it that actually determines how many advantages the master has? So I've got 6 of them. Now, I don't know if you've ever done some deep thinking about this, but I encourage you to. I encourage you to put me on pause and think, what are these 6 advantages that masters have over inexperienced people? And these don't necessarily have to be ninjas of their sport. I just mean they're people that with more experience almost always beat people with less experience. Why is that? There are 6 reasons. How many of them can you think of? Put me on pause and come back. Okay, do it now. Put me on pause now. All right. Hopefully you've done some thinking about the 6 advantages. I'm going to now give them to you. The first advantage the master has is they know all the things that might happen. So the example we're going to use today is volleyball. Okay, somebody is going to hit a volleyball at you and you're a defender. Your job is to dig the ball or at least be close to it if another teammate does. So if you are an experienced player, a master for the purposes of today, you know all the things that that hitter might do. You know all that hitter's options, and that means multiple things. All of these reasons have multiple facets. So, number 1, you know what might happen as far as reading the set. So the set is going way out here, and that hitter's probably going to hit this way because that way becomes very hard. So it's way over here. This is probably what's going to happen because this way becomes really hard. So it's way off the net. They're probably not going to rip it. Their options are limited, usually to some degree, by the non-perfection of the set. Now, if you get a perfect set, all the things that might happen are numerous, and that's why setters try to set good balls. But when they aren't perfect, the master can read that and see, aha, they would have trouble doing this, and if they did, it would at least be slower. So all the things that might happen by the limitations of the play. They are also supremely aware of the patterns of that player, okay, and the things that they like to do. So what might happen? Well, a lot of things might happen, but this player likes these 2 things a lot, so I'm going to look for them. So the master knows all the things that might happen, and that includes all the things that probably won't happen. So that's advantage number 1. Advantage number 2, the master reads what is actually happening sooner. Now, what does that mean? Okay, first of all, the master is reading the hitter prior to the actual contact of the ball. They are reading the hitter, not looking at the ball. The inexperienced younger player is generally waiting to see where the ball actually goes, which is significantly deeper into the time frame we're talking about than somebody is reading and making their decisions before the ball is contacted. So number 1, they're trying to read, where the experienced players are generally watching and waiting for the ball to do something. They're reading the player, and they are actually making decisions prior to contact. And that makes it happen a lot sooner, giving the master far more defensive time to work with than the inexperienced player. Advantage number 3, the master has more response options. They have more things that they could do to solve this problem than an inexperienced player does. So a master might decide, well, I could play it here or here on defense if that's where the ball is actually going to go. Whereas most defenders only have here. And by here, I mean, and then the ball goes backwards, which, by the way, is a third possible response. Throw your hands together near your belly button and swing for the ball, which doesn't work at the higher speeds of the game. It only works at the dorky lower rainbow hit speeds of the game, generally speaking. So that's one option. That's a second option. That's a third option. They also have different options called, I could get behind this one. I could just back up so I can play it down here because on hard hits I'm a little better than these. There's more than just one or two options, kids, and that's what this is all about. They have more options with which to respond to the incoming offense, whereas the less experienced player has usually the one, which is only good at most of the lower speeds and the lower levels of the game. Which brings us to advantage 4. They know which option to choose. So again, inexperienced players don't have much of a choice. They whack their hands together and swing, and they don't even know what else is out there. Not only does the master have more options to pick from to solve the problem, they know which one works best through all the experience and reps that they've had. So this is a constantly snowballing effect. This is why experience matters so much in all sports. But it really, in this situation, is just getting bad for the inexperienced player. So the experienced player knew all the things that could happen, where the ball might go, or at least the highest probability chance. Then they read what was happening so that they could make their decision to go places to where the ball is going to go before the ball is actually even touched. Then they see, well, I've got these certain options to deal with this play. Multiple options because I'm really good at what I do. And this is the one that works the best. Now you would think that would be all the amazing options, which would be huge, and it would explain so much of why people that are experienced are better than people that are inexperienced. But we still have 2 to go. Can you figure them out? Can you figure them out? You have to put me on pause and come back to me in a second. I don't care, I'm going to keep going. Advantage number 5. They are better at executing that response. So even if I put an inexperienced player and an experienced player into the same drill, and I said, okay, I'm going to hit a ball at you. It's going to be right here. If you're good at this one, do this one. If you're good at this one, do this one. I mean, you took all the guesswork out and you said, here's where it's going to be. And we just went to just this thing here. The master is going to do whatever they do better than the inexperienced athlete because they've done it so many bajillions of times. If they're anywhere near relatively equitable athletes, the master with more experience, which means more practice at this particular skill, is going to execute it better, over 10 tries. I mean, anybody can get lucky and whack a ball up, but if you give it over time, the master is just flat out better at executing whatever that correct option to respond was. So that leaves us with one last advantage of the master. Can you figure it out? The final advantage of the master, number 6, they know what to do next. So let's go over the whole thing. Ball's set outside. The experienced player knows the tendencies of the hitter. They see the options being limited by the imperfection of the set, and they know all the things that might happen. They could tip, they could roll, they could zip, they could rip it. Who knows? But they know all the things that could happen, and they're seeing as those things are being taken away, as the hitter does not go like this, it's probably a roll or a tip, etc. Now, the experienced defender also reads what is happening, so they're planning on reacting to it before the ball's even touched, whereas the inexperienced player is going to wait till after the ball is touched. Number 3, they have more ways to respond that will work to whatever the problem is. This problem being a hit coming at them. They could go here or here, as opposed to doing this. They could do that too. They just figured out long ago that that doesn't work very well, so they use this and this as options to solve this particular problem. They know which option to choose. They know they're better here or they know they're better here, and they pick the one that works more often for them. Through all the practice and experience, they are able to make that decision. Then, when they actually choose how to respond to the offensive hit, they are actually better at executing that response. And then they know what to do after it. They immediately yell, gaining investment from the whole team, go! And then they go cover. Whereas the inexperienced athlete might be so surprised they dug it, they just, they get excited. And the advantages continue because every time there's something to do in sports, all 6 of these are an issue. All 6 are an issue. All 6 are an issue. Hey, if you were hitting all 6 of these, as the play was developing, you'd see the middle blocker coming over, and you'd know early whether you could hit seam, or whether you should wait for that middle and hit cross court, or whether there's so much line you don't even worry about it. Right there. This is advantage enough to crush people without experience. But all of these actually compound on top of each other, which is why the master almost always beats the inexperienced athlete unless there are literally decades of difference between the athleticism of youth and the declining athleticism of the old folks that know so much. This is what you should be working on as an athlete. You should be working on your read. You should be working on your options. You should know what people can do to you. You should be looking at, I've got different options, which one works for me? And by the way, the ones that don't, you need to work on those and make them strengths instead of weaknesses, so you have more viable options. Then you have to get better at executing these things. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to be a ball. They have to be playable or settable or hittable or whatever it is that you do. And then you have to concern yourself with what's the next thing I do and get right to it. Don't be satisfied just because you did something right. Be sure that you're on to the next thing already, because that's one of the things that people are doing to you to beat you. They just know what's going on sooner. So, the 6 advantages of the master. Use this list to work on your own game and become a master sooner. I have been asking kids to read, and they can do it. I've been asking kids to work on their options, and they can do it. These are things you can do. This is a roadmap of things you might want to work on so that you can get more experience faster than the people you play against, and hence have the advantages of the master working for you.